So, my topic for today's discussion is how to expand horizons of language teaching and business. And I will just give you a kind of main points that we plan to discuss, and that is role of languages, number one. Number two, I would also like to discuss what are the scope of languages, like old school versus new school. What is applied language or what is applied languages, language business and translation. Then I will walk you through influence of IT and technologies, and then we will discuss little bit on new paradigms. And then we also have new horizons and future, and then case studies, and then some questions and discussions. So, in between, if you have any questions, any doubts, please hold on, or put your questions in the chat box, and then at the end of the discussion, we will have a detailed discussion, because I will be giving you certain case studies also, and then there are certain questions which I would like to present to you and seek your views. So that is the idea behind. So the first thing that I wanted to come and talk to you is role of languages. Tell me, I mean, in general, when I'm talking about role of languages, I'm not talking from linguistic point of view or from purely intellectual point of view. I'm talking broadly where these languages are important for earning as well as knowledge acquisition, and things. So we and for this we have variety of perspective. So we look at a role of languages from a perspective of a student. We find a role of languages totally different way. For a student, it is more to communication. Certainly, is always there, but it is more to do with acquisition of grammar rules, and then practicing repetition drills, understanding the correctness, developing vocabulary. Similarly, when we look at role of languages from teacher's perspective, it is more to do with teaching, how to teach languages. On the other hand, there is another very dynamic dimension, and that is role of languages for mothers. When mother, is interacting with a child, newly born child, and the child does not understand the language, but still mother has to communicate to the child, and child has to communicate to the mother, the role of language comes there also. Similarly, when we are talking from translator's perspective, when a translator or a linguist learns two languages or three languages, and they have to communicate between two languages, they have totally different perspective for languages. Similarly, when we talk of languages from agency perspective, the agency's task is to get things done in a proper way and in a time. Similarly, when we talk of a researcher's angle, the role of language is different. Researcher has to think into, get into the writers, get into details of certain issues on which he or she is working. Similarly, when we to look from administrator's point of view, the role of language is different, because administrator wants to communicate and put all these information whatever they have developed to use and to knowledge of the people. Similarly, if you look at politicians' point of view, what politicians do, certainly communication is there, but for a politician, there is an opportunity, to create a kind of divide in society in the name of languages, and develop a vote bank. That is the perspective which generally politicians look at. Similarly, if we look at languages from a businessman perspective, businessman tries to play a role by developing job opportunities, as well as trying to earn money out of it. And same applies with the entrepreneur. They try to be independent and generating things instead of being employed. you know This is how I will orient you to kind of languages, and I will try to stimulate certain points which will be important for you as a teacher or or a language learner or as a researcher. So now the next point comes to our point of discussion is how what is the scope of languages, number one, and how in this particular scope we have old school versus new school. We will discuss, I mean, you will have opportunity to put certain points later, but let me give you a brief introduction of how the languages in different parts of the world have played role in transformation of knowledge as well as transformation of information from one corner to another corner, transformation including transfer. If you look at Indian perspective, it was more to do with acquisition of languages in one generation or information in one generation, and then transferring it to new generation with certain additions and certain deletions. There is always a loss of information when you are transferring knowledge or information from one language to another or one generation to another generation. So in India, traditionally it was more to do with transferring knowledge from one generation to another, and then enriching things. So we call it this oral tradition, and that oral tradition has played key role, which has taken various shapes, and that's how the development of languages in India has taken place. If you go by details of UNESCO as well as the consensus census records, you will find that India has around 1600 dialects classified under 235 subgroup of languages, and then another classifications brings, and then there are constitutionally we have 30 languages plus in place, which is official languages of India. So it is not one language but multi-language, multi-layers of years of development and multiple layers of cultures, but still you find unifying points in languages. But globally, if you look at languages, it was more to do with transfer of information from one language to another. And when transformation started, it was more to do with transformation of Bible text or Quran text from that particular written context to variety of other languages. And that is why if people attempted it earlier, they were not allowed to attempt, but when they attempted it, many of them were killed because they have done something wrong by interfering with the God's message. But somehow people were able to break through, and they started word to word translation. So if you look into old scriptures, you will find word to word translation going on. Then slowly it developed into sense to sense discussions started. It's not only word that is more important, but it is also sense that is more important, including in the Greek period. In medieval ages and later, the linguistic approach came into picture, where equivalence was more given importance. When equivalent came, they were not talking about social or historical or cultural context. They focused more on transformation of information from one language to another, transfer of information from one language to another, and it was more of a static thing. There was no dynamism in the approach of understanding the language and its importance and its role in dissemination of information. But slowly, when people started thinking more deeper, there was a cultural approach that came. It is called cultural turn. If you go into details of linguistic development and language development and translation studies, you will find cultural turn taking place. Similarly, there came an approach when people started saying, it is more of a feminist thing. So there came a feminist approach. If you read Spivak, Gayatri, as well as Nilanjana and all, you will find a variety of approaches coming in to picture. Then came diaspora studies, when Indian or other people start going to other countries, or other people, African people, transferring into France or coming into Spain from Latin America. They have their culture coming with them and language coming with them, so they write about their own country, their own culture, the upbringing that took place, and the mixing that takes place between the culture. So there come diaspora studies in the language studies as well as translation studies. Similarly, a new approach came, that was called sociological approach. When people started talking from power relations point of view and how humans interact in society, there also the vocabulary of individuals change from home to classroom, and from classroom to workstation to society, and everywhere the power relation comes into picture and social fabric comes into picture when we decide and decipher language and its role. Similarly, there are certain names that developed new dimensions, gave him new dimensions, like Pierre Bourdieu. It gave, kind of a concept of doxa. It gave a concept of, capital, like cultural capital, social capital, intellectual capital, economic capital. Similarly, there is another approach that came called autopoietic approach. By he relates it to amoeba, and then talks about how systems play, and they develop kind of autopoietic relations between them, including system like social system, political system, economic system, cultural system, and media as well. They all play autopoietic role. There is no crisscross relationship cutting, but there are certain systems in play, and they also play a power relationship role. Similarly, there came a action network theory by Bruno Latour, who talks about people, everything static, and he relates human relations with technology, including IT, and how humans are totally dependent on machines, and machine is also part of our system in which we interact in. It's not only society, it is not only political boundaries or cultural boundaries, it is also the machine boundaries that comes into picture. And then comes a business school of thought in which languages play key role in developing business across the globe, what we call localization, internationalization, or globalization. These are all part of language studies. Old school I have explained you earlier, the new school that comes into picture in cultural feminist approach, social power relationship, Pierre Bourdieu, Luhmann, as well as Bruno Latour. And then in more recent time we have Google phenomena or Web 2 technologies that is coming into picture, and that is what is helping us to make ourselves more smart in terms of delivery, because languages now is democratized in such a way that everybody wants to consume information in his or her own languages. So the low role of language is not only restricted to certain people or certain boundaries, but it is boundaryless now. Anybody who is having a few only speakers of that particular language, people want to reach out to them in their languages. So that is the importance of this Web 2 technologies and social media boom through Google phenomena or Facebook phenomena or Twitter phenomena or any other means. In addition to that there is democratization of technology, especially in terms of IT, when we have free Wi-Fi almost, or Geo coming into picture, or variety of other service players competing to give you almost free services for internet so that you can communicate. And then comes the most recent one is AI, artificial intelligence. Big data and artificial intelligence combined together to gather data across the globe, in real time, and gather information about you in a very personalized way, and predicting even your thoughts There is, futurist approach by variety of professors who believe that in very near future we will have chips inserted in our brain, whereby we will be able to boost our memory. We will have specs, or we will have contact lens, which will have everything embedded in your own language, or in your own personalized languages, including coded language, including which only you will be able to decipher, and make use of it during examination, when you have something to appear for a competitive examinations, or including classroom examinations for your undergrad or postgrad courses. One can wear the lens and have a click and answer the questions after just using those lenses. That kind of thing has already started coming in. 2 years back, I was in Dubai with Prime Minister's delegation. There I learned already there is a technology which inserts injection in your hand or somewhere in part of your body, which works as a chip, and you don't have to carry your ID proof. That chip contains everything, and you just need to swipe that part of thing in front of a scanner, and your passport details, your ID, your bank details, everything is done, and you don't have to carry anything. So this experiment has already started. Driverless trains, driverless motors have already come into picture. There are a variety of technologies that are taking place, including seamless welding, including robot, including all these things require language there, because information is needed, number one, instructions are needed, number two, and even when they are acquiring your thoughts, or they are trying to understand you, they need to track your hand, they need to track your sound, they need to track your movements, locations, and in your own language. So the importance of language has grown manifold in last 10 years or 20 years or so. So my now point is, how this old school and new school is taking into consideration all these old and new school points. I will now come to more realistic approach to studies, and that is applied languages. All these things which I have explained were more of a traditional thing. After the linguistic approach came into picture in languages and more development took place in linguistics, it has certain branches which plays important role for understanding of our talk today. And one is it has role in bilingualism, multilingualism. It has role in understanding conversation, so we call it conversation analysis, contrastive linguistics, and sign linguistics. Similarly, there came a language assessment, then comes literature, then comes discourse analysis, then comes language teaching and pedagogy, then comes second language acquisition, language planning, interlinguistics. All these come under a study called linguistic studies, which is certainly a branch, a more specialized branch of language acquisition. And from that applied linguistic approach, there comes another approach, and that is language business and translation. After these things were developed and variety of things were being researched by linguists, there came application of all this language linguistic approach, and that came into picture was language business and translation. So in language business, certainly there are certain major points that come into picture, and that is translation, number one. Another one is interpretation. Then we have language school, language training. Then we have technology and research. Then we have management, administration, and so on. These are certain points which attract a student after having studied languages, right? So when we are talking about trying to expand the horizons of languages through applied linguistics, languages people or language researchers have already started using them in these broad areas of studies, and traditionally I will say these are certain points where most of the people try to locate themselves after having studied languages, including certain pockets like working for diplomatic missions or working for certain NGOs, etc. But what is more important is in recent development is development of language plus translation plus in using through IT. In IT has integrated now, Google translation, you might be knowing, is one important tool now being used by everybody almost. Although people keep on saying that it is the wrong translation, it does so and so. That is why the role of language people are there. You exist because Google cannot do it. But certainly, if you reject Google and do not make use of it and keep rejecting it, there will be time when you will face stiff competition from those you are using technology. So it is very important for us to integrate with the technologies and start making use of certain tools. We call it computer assisted translation tools, including terminology tools, including online tools. There are certain AI tools also coming into picture. There are certain plugins that has come into picture. Government of India has also has been working in this regard a lot. CDAC has developed a variety of tools, although it has not been democratized because of variety of other marketing problems or approach problem from the administration. But in India, there has been quite good number of development taking place, including now the private initiatives have also taken place. Government as well as certain stakeholders are already working for developing machine tools for translation of court orders from one language to another. Fortunately, I am also part of that consortium that consists of currently 5 IITs from different parts of India, including IIT Kanpur, BHU, IIT Delhi, IIT Patna, as well as Triple IIT Hyderabad. So now there is another, dimension of language where we have to make use of, these converters like PDF converters. We have to use file editors. We have to look alignment. We have to use dictionary developers. All these things, are important for us to develop our horizons. And importantly, even when we are talking about tools, now there are hybrid tools that has come into picture. Earlier, these tools were like, you feed certain sentence structure, let's say 1 lakh sentences, but slowly there came a time when machine was more smarter, so they started feeding memory, then certain sentences structure, and then the machine learns from those sentences structure as well as from your memory, and develops a kind of intuitive translation and gives you good translation from one language to another language for all those parts which it could process. And after having processed memory as well as your understanding your pattern, they are now giving you suggestions for those parts which are not already pre-translated. So if one uses these tools, the efficiency increases very high. For example, if you were able to transfer information of, let's say, 10 pages from one language to another language in 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, after using these tools, you will be able to drastically decrease the time to complete it. You will be happy to note that in our internship program that we generally provide to most of the new interns, newbies we call it. Every year we organize this internship program, and in that last year we had developed a rubric called Modlingua rubric that helps you to make use of certain tools including Grammarly to increase your efficiency and reduce your work time by almost half. So if your time is saved, you earn it. And just imagine if there are bigger projects in which 100 people are working, and if they use that matrix, can you imagine how many number of hours they can save? So this kind of innovation or this kind of activities, I believe, is again additional dimension for the language learning and acquisition. And if as a student, if as a researcher, if as a teacher, you are able to at least create interest in these dimensions in among students, I believe your task will be over, because the idea is to create more interest, and the more interest we create, the better it is for our profession of language, because they will be able to link this traditional way of language acquisition to new dimensions, and they are practical dimensions I am talking about. It is not that it is impossible. We are already doing it. The only need is we need to integrate them. Now there comes another point into our discussion, and that is influence of IT and some new trends. How this is affecting. What is new trend? New trend is, now there are lots of people who are writers, who are producers of content, and because of this online community, which is thriving community, and they are desperate to get information in the quickest possible time. If a writer is writing a book in Hindi, let's suppose, and he has tens of followers across the globe, and if those followers are bilinguals, multilinguals, they can add great value to him or her. So what a writer can do, he or she can just create a platform and float his book to them and tell them to translate it. And if out of million followers, only 100 people come together for one particular language, they are able to create wonder and do translation of that book in a day or a two. So by the time the publication of that book has started, the other version in other language starts, and this is what is called crowd sourcing of translation or languages. Similarly, there are variety of other activities taking place, including peer review translation. In peer review translation, and what they do, you don't need to have word to word or sentence to sentence or paragraph to paragraph translation. They just give you information in Hindi, and they want that in French or German or Chinese or Korean. The person reads it, the domain experts generally, and they start typing information in his own sense and meaning, and broadly keeps the information intact and translates. This is what is called lightweight peer review production. And another person or two people or three people vets it, and the translation is done. Even a unilingual can do it. You don't need to be a bilingual. You need to just have the concept in your mind, and you do the needful for that person. And this is needed for those people who are desperate to get their information in their own language, including booklets and brochures or instruction manual for certain high demand products, including iPhone, and including new products that is very hyped by people across the globe, and people are ready to pay for it and buy it at whatever cost. So this is how the thing comes into picture. There are variety of collaborative translation taking place across the globe. If you try and locate. There are certain disasters that takes place across the globe. Medical aid is needed, human intervention is needed, and in that phase of time, when there is a crisis going on in certain country or certain community, and you need to reach out to them with medicine, legal aids, emotional aids, functional aids, what you do? You need a language person, and there also collaboration comes. Humans come and they start collaborating. All these things, have been all, which I have just explained you, is being successfully implemented across the globe by certain entrepreneurs, innovators, and they are doing it on a big way, on a big scale, I'm saying. So it's, whatever I'm saying is not a fiction, but the reality. Similarly, when, a language person reaches, after being studied, having studied, this language, let's say till graduation level, or in India we call it undergrad or BA level, and then maybe a master's. These language persons, they go to an office, and in the office, most of the time, they do not do exactly, purely the role of a linguist. They play a role of a translator, role of a project manager, role of a terminologist, role of an IT person, account process professional, inbound calls, outbound calls, inbound tourism, outbound tourism, and whatnot. There are a variety of things which they do, including use of technology, machines that Bruno Latour has already explained about action network theory. Everything is sleeping, and when you start, having variety of issues. So this kind of, dimension is helping us in a big way to come out with a variety of things, that comes into picture. Then comes, how technologies play role in developing entrepreneurs for language persons. There is a cost effective tool now. They don't have to invest much. IT is there, mobile phones are there, websites are there, and you are on. Now you don't need an office also. After pandemic, people have experimented video conferencing, people have experimented how to work from home or how to remain connected globally through Zoom or other platforms. All these things is helping us to move ahead and do variety of experiments in languages and translation business. Now, that is how it becomes easy for all the language professionals and translators to develop into entrepreneurship, because of their integration with new offices where they play a variety of roles and slowly develop their capabilities in IT, project management, risk management, internationalization, globalization, team building, human resource management. When you are able to do all these things, and when you already have technology available, why not become a generator of the employment? Why remain restricted to only getting a job? The idea is, if you have capability, generate employment for the society and for the people around. Now I will give you certain points which is very important for us to understand, and that is, what are the new horizons and what is the future? How we can additionally integrate our language capabilities in different other dimensions which I have not explained you so far. There is a latent, I will say, opportunity waiting for us. I repeat, there is a latent opportunity waiting for us. And where is that? We have latent opportunity waiting. We have already discussed about it, and that is culture. We have sociology, we have history, we have law, we have medical field, we have science and transfer of technology, we have localization, we have globalization, we have diplomacy, we have role to play in nation building, we have policy making, administration, we have social media analysis, we have data analytics, we have IT, artificial intelligence, innovation. And what is the future? You find opportunities everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see opportunity. How? I tell you. If you are a researcher, you will find opportunity in anthropology. What is anthropology? What did Britishers do to India? I will give you one. It's a big industry if you want to try. When Britishers came into India, they developed a school called Oriental School. But before doing that, they developed a new profession called anthropologist or anthropologist expert, anthropology. They developed a new discipline. What is this anthropology? They were called the people who study the culture, who observe and study the culture. They are called anthropologists. And these people are considered big researchers. Their approach is very scientific. They cannot be wrong. They are more closer to the fact and truth. So this kind of myth they created in the name of anthropology. And after that myth was created, they developed a school called Oriental School in London as well as in India, in Kolkata. And they sent new recruited civil servants to India and study here anthropology. They also sent certain anthropologists to India to study Indian culture, Indian society, Indian history, everything they could. They observed. Observation and writing is also a translation. It is also a language. Because you are transferring from one to another. So this is what is culture, studies. What they observed? They didn't observe, the richness that India had. They observed the miseries of India. They observed the strength that India had in their, self-sufficient unit. Every village was almost self-sufficient because they had their own legal system, they had their own handicraft industry, they had their own agriculture, they had their own traditional technology, which were par with Britain. They were competing with Manchester at that time, right? And Indian textile. You read Shashi Tharoor, you will understand what I'm saying. So all these things, they studied and they translated where? Into their own language, English. And they took it to London with what we call it Eurocentric bias. And they depicted India as a rustic India which had no law. Manu Smriti was considered, a bad law for India. The Indian history was considered barbaric before them. The architecture designs were considered, of no use. Taj Mahal as well as the mandirs and temples, the architectural designs, which is competing, which is unique in its sense. Medicine, traditional medicine, Vedic, medicines, they are the best because they do not give you side effect. Science, Ramanujam, mathematicians, and Aryabhat is prominent example. Literature, writers like Kalidas and Surdas and Tulsidas, they are all known facts. They were all considered useless, archaic. And whatever interpretation which they did in terms of their thoughts was then from there it was translated into Europe, in Spain, to France, to Germany and other corners. And India was slowly and systematically called a barbaric India. And parallelly, the plunder took place from 1800 onwards till 1947 or till today. The English language was introduced. Railway entered into the veins of India and plundered everything. Municipality was introduced in India. The local system was demolished. English become the elite language and unifying language, imposition, which is this is what is called. The religious scriptures, although they were quite sensitive, India was sensitive to religion, so they didn't touch much. But still, they had taken lots of pain to install churches everywhere. I'm not against any religion though, but I'm talking about colonization process. There is a thought process in colonial studies. If you go into translation as well as language studies, there is a language of protest, there is a language of colonial writings. All these things, they are still considered second grade. So there is another opportunity as an entrepreneur and a researcher. A researcher can become entrepreneur. If you want to do research in this area, you can create 1,000 books, hire 1,000 people, a full-fledged $1 million project. Similarly, when we talk of sociology and culture and history work together in languages. Legal interpretation, law, there is another area of entrepreneurship waiting. Our own election commission since 1947 till today has produced only manuals in English. It has to be translated into all these 30 languages or at least 10 languages of India. There is an opportunity. Medical field, medicine, Ayurvedic medicines and these Vedic things, it has not been translated well into variety of other Indian languages. Scientific text, which is written in English but not in Indian languages. Opportunity is there. Now everybody wants to go local. If you have a purchasing power, you come to India, and if you talk to a villager in his language or her language, you know how to manipulate his mind and sell your product. So social media thing, silently manipulates, you as well as your thought process and sells you things through advertisements. Silently gives you free and slowly poisons your mind and sells the product. So there is another opportunity. Similarly, if you want to do the same thing into global market, you need to localize and then internationalize and globalize your product. Talk to their language, adapt your language as well as to translation to their localities. You can't sell a Barbie doll, white one, in Latin America or in Africa, where the black beauties are more important. So you have to customize those Barbie dolls into black colored beautiful girl there, right? Similarly, there are a variety of nomenclatures that takes place, brand names take place, international branding is there. Opportunity is abound, my friend, for entrepreneurs as well as for professionals. Similarly, diplomacy. I mean, if you read a language and a foreign language including, you can play a big role, in that particular community or a country for India. I recall I was working for, a Peruvian embassy long back when I was a student. At that phase of time when I was doing my master's, luckily I had the opportunity to appear for entrance examination of the School of Diplomacy, Madrid. And I, as a language person, was able to develop capabilities in international relations also, because I was working for the Peruvian embassy and doing political research and international research, etc. And that enriched my knowledge, and I was able to crack that examination And I feel happy to inform you that so far that examination has not been cleared by anyone. You know, how I was able to do it? Because I expanded my horizon into international relations. So you as a language person, if you parallelly develop your capabilities, in other areas, you can develop a big bridge, or you can become a big ambassador, stimulator, intercultural mediator. But the problem is, we as a language professional, we remain, in a closed set of thoughts, from language structure to rules, and rules to grammar, and from grammar to word and sense to sense, and then translation. It is a tool. So if you have a tool in your hand, why not use it for other avenues? If you don't use it, who will use it then? And if by the time you start thinking about it, you have lost the touch with your language. And if you start studying international relations, you will not be able to write what your thoughts in that particular language. If I have studied Spanish, I should write everything directly into Spanish, no? When I am talking about international relations. If that capability we carry forward, I can assure you, your students or your own self, you can do wonders in life. I have been trying to do it somehow. Although I am a learner, I continue to learn, not achieve too much, but I live a comfortable life. Earning is quite decent, and I have control on my own time. If I don't want to do anything, I just say I am off today. So I am not bound by any boundaries, This has happened because luckily I was able to make use of my language capabilities and expand it into variety of areas, including whatever I have talked to you. Do experiments in life, very important. So there comes the opportunity for language learning and acquisition. Similarly, expansion I am talking about, horizons. There is another horizon, and there comes, policy and administration. Language, again, when you are making policies, why you are writing in English? Why don't you write directly in Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or whatever language that you have, so that everybody can consume it well? This is a time when everybody wants things in their own language. So there is a high demand, but the supply is not coming. So can you imagine the demand there? If you become a supplier for that particular business or opportunity, you are an entrepreneur. Similarly, social media analysis. There are a variety of thoughts coming into picture. There is a software being developed everywhere. People automate social media. They catch information, and it is being used at variety of forums, including diplomacy as well as share markets. Smart people who are share brokers and investors, big investors, they analyze social media and they predict what is going to happen tomorrow. And based on that, they either enter in the market or exit in the market, and they make big profit, millionaires. I have just given you one example of how this social media is being used. But I and you, we go there and chat, share certain comments, certain jokes, photographs, and feel happy when we have some likes, right? But there is a big people. There are some good number of big people sitting there analyzing everything. If suddenly something happens, across the globe, you will find Twitter, you will find Google, you will find Facebook, you will find WhatsApp, all, exchanging messages on those points. So the smart people, they gather, the movement and note the graph where it is going. Volume, the more volume on certain topic, there is a more opportunity there. The less volume, there is less opportunity. So they take it as a signal, and they plan their strategy accordingly. So there is another opportunity, my friend. Similarly, data analysis. This is part of data analysis. IT, all these tools, manuals, structures, etc. Directly develop, tools in Hindi, directly develop tools in Tamil, French, Italian, whatever language you want. Do innovation, make use of artificial intelligence. Even artificial intelligence need information, certain basics on which they work on. Without that, they can't do anything. Innovation comes into picture. I will tell you, I was lucky enough to inaugurate an institute, one Center for Language Innovation in Punjab Technical University in 2012 when I was advisor to the university. They told me to develop something unique, and that Center for Language Innovation was involved, and it was developed and it is already there. So its role is to find out opportunities in languages, make use of innovation and technology, and help the government, state of Punjab or state of Haryana or state of or even central government in developing variety of projects for multilingual development or multilingual access of information, research, opportunities, and whatnot. So these are all points of opportunities which I believe you should make use of. Now there is another point that I want to come and discuss is, there are two cases that I have for you. One case is, I have explained all this, what is to you, what is traditional thought, what is how language is developing, and how translation has also, developed, how it is expanding, what is its role, localization, globalization, a big business, multi-million business. Translation broadly encompasses interpreting also, because I bring that into the similar kind of discipline. Although it is a specialized area, you need to have lab, and there is a big difference. One is typing and writing, and another is speaking. But broadly, it is different from linguistics, and it comes under translation and interpretation studies, right? So now what is coming is, recently there is a grouping of certain experts in languages and translation. This is called Asian Association of Translation Industry. I am part of that group as a founder secretary general, and its headquarters is in Bangkok. So we have worked, to create, like a center for, language and translation under the aegis of ASEAN, ASEAN. This is a grouping of Asian countries like European Union, and there is a possibility to develop, free trade among all these nations. India is external part of it. So ASEAN, Secretariat, after we pursued, have developed, ASEAN MTI Center. There the focus is to do translations and interpreting. Center has been developed, funded, director, secretariat, everything is there. Now there are certain section of linguists, people from linguistic discipline. They are advocating that ASEAN should now get diverted from being considered as a part of translation to linguistics. The reality is, linguistics was passed in 1960s when equivalence was the role, there. Linguistic has given rise to translation, and translation has integrated itself with all these, points that I have discussed: culture, sociology, history, law, medical, localization, diplomacy, and whatnot. So it has become a multidisciplinary activity, and it is totally a different ball game. Linguistic is giving more research-oriented human resources. Translation is generating employment for millions of students and language people, right? So do you feel it is worth to talk about transferring this or bringing this whole episode into linguistic studies? Number one. So now the second course study is, Asian. For example, we have this new education policy has given an opportunity for language community to develop Indian School of Translation and Interpreting, right? The idea was that it will become a kind of center where those policymakers who were involved in that. In fact, I had given a white paper on that. They added that into new education policy, but after the policy has been announced, the idea was that there will be a world class, university that will stimulate research, writing, thoughts in translation, language, and all the related areas, applied languages, right? But unfortunately, the policymakers have decided to forget foreign languages and get into again Indian languages, and converted Central Institute of Indian Languages into Indian School of Translation and Interpreting. Conversion is a good thing. Making opportunities of existing building and infrastructure is again a good thing. But the way it is being implemented, by ignoring the big multi-million business of foreign languages in India, which can generate Indian products, globalized Indian products, internationalized Indian products, has been ignored. So now my question to you is, how you tackle all this? You need to have a professional, team. You need to have a lobby. You need to have a pride in whatever you do. And if we don't have this, there are vultures sitting there everywhere. They come and grab. So Britishers have already gone, but there are more Britishers available in the system everywhere. So you as a professional, language professional, if you are not sensitive enough to all these points that I have explained it to you prior as well as now, I believe we will continue to face problems. We have to remain professionally united, feel pride in our profession, make our students more confident by giving them variety of options and opportunities, orienting them, motivating them, so that they feel confident about it. इन सब चीज़ों का ध्यान रखते हुए we should think of कि as a language teacher, that you are not only a teacher, but you are also a person who is interacting with a young mind, and that young mind must be given certain food for thought, especially for contribution to the nation, number one, as a linguist or as a good person, for the society, as a parent, as a a citizen, a responsible citizen of the country. So I believe there is a big opportunity waiting. The only thing is you need to locate them, divert them, and inspire people around, especially your students. So with this, I would like to conclude and thank you all for your patience listening.